I think you're right.
But, but
You could be right, and if that's the case, that person's not going to be able to get benefits. But as long as you can have somebody who is a witness, who is a coworker or a supervisor, to say that you were not under the influence at the time of that accident, you're going to win. But the insurance company's not going to tell you that.
right. So has there ever been a situation that you dealt with where there might have been a company that like might have lapsed on their making their payments for workers comp insurance, and then the inevitable happened where there was nothing there to pay. So what
I've
happened?
got one. I've got one right now. I mean, it
Oh,
shows that you've done your preparation and hit on some good topics. So what we have in Virginia is it happens often enough that Virginia doesn't want to leave people uncovered without any recourse. So we have what's
right.
called the Uninsured Employers Fund, and the government pays for it, and then
Okay.
whatever benefits they pay out, they go back on the employer. But I'm representing a young man now who got burned at work by a hot liquid, and his employer has been calling him directly, the owner of the restaurant, calling him and saying, oh, send me your medical bills, let me pay you. And it doesn't work that way, because
Mm,
one of the most important things about workers' compensation is you get lifetime medical benefits. So if you settle your case with your boss by him paying you under the table and maybe paying your medical bills, you're getting out of that situation without getting the main benefit that you need, which is lifetime medical benefits for anything that relates back to that injury. So you're right. It happens too often, but luckily we have a system in place in Virginia where the person still is going to be covered, and the state of Virginia will go after the employer who didn't have the proper insurance that they should have had.
oh yeah. So is that like I kind of starting to forget what I'm having a brain fart here.
That's okay.
But while I'm having that brain fart, I will just bring up that I do know here in the state of Wisconsin that they do impose penalties for non-coverage of workers' comp. So that I
You're
do
right.
know.
There not only is there that system, but you're right, from the employer
Right.
standpoint, there will be financial penalties for them, and I think in the future they probably have to pay higher insurance rates for making that
Yeah.
mistake. So
Yeah.
it's important for anyone who's covered by the Workers' Comp Act. Those employers need to be sure they have insurance for the sake of their employees. Their employees deserve to know they have that peace of mind.
Yeah. So in other words, here's where I was going to go with this. So in other words, uh, the the taxpayers in Virginia are sort of putting in a pot, putting this pot together, and for this the negligence of some of these businesses. In other words, huh?
You're right. They are, and that's part of the reason we have a separate system. So unlike having to go to court in the regular courthouse, it's a completely separate system called the Virginia Workers' Compensation System. So you go there, and the hearings are different, the rules are different, and in fact, unlike in a regular court, even if you're at fault, you can get covered for workers' compensation. So
Mm,
as long as you weren't ignoring a known safety rule, you will have coverage. Now, the other part of it is the trade-off there is you don't get to go in and ask for damages. You only get to
mm,
get lost wages and medical bills. You don't get pain. You don't get pain and suffering. You don't
right.
get lost time and inconvenience like you would in a civil case. But even if you are negligent, as long as you are doing your job properly, you still get covered in the workers' compensation system. And in terms of the state paying through this uninsured fund, they do whatever they pay out, they go after the employers and make them repay it. So they're
Mm.
really just kind of fronting the money for the employers, so for the benefit of the workers.
Okay. Now, yeah, final question here, and this is a one I'm throwing a Hail Mary on. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So here's my Aaron Rodgers for you. So
Okay.
I don't know if that's a good reference nowadays, but
He's pretty darn good.
yeah, he's a good quarterback. So now, self-employed individuals specifically contractors. There's a lot of construction workers who will elect to get workers' comp, and sometimes they'll have trouble, trying to recoup payments when they get hurt on the job from their own insurance company. Have you ever had to assist any of those individuals?
I have it because in Virginia, we only require workers' compensation insurance if you have 3 or more employees.
Okay.
So typically the self-employed guys, they have to have their own kind of liability insurance for their company. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't. But
Yeah.
when those guys look at it, there's a question. If they are considered, let's say that they're a sub working under a general.
Right.
If you can prove that they weren't really a subcontractor, but they were really an employee, they can get covered under the workers' comp insurance of the general.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, there you go.
And the test is whether they were independent.
Right.
You're a subcontractor. If I say that